So my thing is, I am not against investing in Kenya. I highly encourage people. But I think as diasporans, we need to challenge ourselves and find out what are these opportunities that the Chinese are investing in, because the Chinese are getting good returns. What are these opportunities that white people are going to Kenya and getting in, because those guys are not getting 12%. I can guarantee you.
Gemstones, minerals.
Yes, they're not getting 12%. No interest, no nothing.
Yes.
The guy now, when he converts that 100,000, it's the same amount as your... And you
as my investment
as
that I've gone and hired a caretaker. I went and I bought what is it called?
You are evicting tenants.
Zile nini za maji nikaweka huko juu na mapumps zimewekwa hapo. Siji kuna solar nimeweka hapo because I'm a generous guy. Ati siji ma tenancies, ati siji nimewawekea kamaji. No, I'm just saying. No, I'm just now giving an example because some people actually do that. Okay, Mika, do you know that us as who lived here in the diaspora, we are way landlords. Si kwa ubaya.
People. So the S&P 500, if you have a 401k, for example, here in the US, your employer HR department will ask you to select a fund. And usually there's some funds, like they'll tell you there's this conservative one, there's this aggressive one. I will always recommend, like whenever you're selecting a fund there, always ask them if there is an S&P 500 or a total stock market. That's 100% equities. This is the one thing that I will say, just take it from me. Because they'll give you so many different options.
Yeah, they do. It's
overwhelming. Mix it with bonds, mix it with, forget about the target date. A lot of people are pushed towards target date funds. And I'm sure 9 out of 10 people listening here, all the sophisticated people have target date funds. Those target date funds, they're the most expensive and they tend to perform.
They fluctuate.
No, they tend to perform, or in the long run, they tend to be outperformed by the market. So the S&P 500, this is the biggest 500 companies in the US. They're about, like 80 to 90% of the total stock market capitalization. And they've been giving a steady return for a very long, the last few years, the average has been about 20%. So I like giving the 10%, average, which 10 to 12%, which is what I tell people. So with the S&P 500, typically it will take 7 years to double your money. 7 years. And this is...
So if I had invested this same 30 million
yes.
in Kenya, so it would take
If you had invested it 7 years ago in the S&P 500,
yes,
you would have your return. And you know why you would have more money?
You said it takes me to double. So that means I would have 60 million.
Yes, you would have 60 million.
Okay.
But now you would have it in dollars. Here's the thing. Remember, if you invested that 7 years ago, when the dollar was 80 something, or maybe let's say 100. Let's call it 100. Let's call it 90. Whatever amount it was.
Okay.
Whatever amount it was.
Yes.
So all this money that, because over the long run, the Kenya shilling, I know we are in a period where it kind of like slipped back.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it always loses to the dollar. If you look at the last 30 years,
correct,
there are moments, yes, when it will go back, but it always goes back up again.
The only point where investing in a foreign country really works is when, and this actually messed up the stock market a few months ago. You guys remember there's a day we woke up and the stock market was red because Japan had increased its interest rates.
Yes.
Yes. That was the only time investing in a foreign market. That is the only time investing in a foreign market works. And that is why everybody in the world goes to borrow money from Japan, come and invest it in companies in Europe and the US to make that money, because when they are repaying that money back to Japan, it's cheaper. So when Japan increased the rates, guess what? The price of the loan that they had borrowed to invest went high. And that is why the stock market went low, because they had to pay back that loan real quick before they had to pay for the interest. But if you're ever crossing money through borders, do not expect a profit. Rarely does it happen. Like
Yes. So when, like I tell people, you're earning your money in US dollars. So you should always calculate your returns in US dollars. And this is where those people who are fighting me, this is the math they don't want to, they're burying their heads in the sand. This is where, because like when you say 10%, let's say you invested $100,000 when the dollar,
based upon what we've been using for this flat.
Yeah,
it's this flat. It's $300,000.
So let's say
at the rate it's $300,000 that you use.
To even make it simpler, let's take $100,000 investment back when the dollar was 100. That's 10 million. That's 10 million in Kenya. So you've invested and you're earning your 10% return. So first year you earn 10%, you earned your 1 million. Second year 10%, third year you earn 10%. So you've earned 3 million. So now total plus the cost of the flat, you have 13 million. Guess what? The same guy, the guy who had that $100,000 in the US sitting in a bank or under a mattress, now has more money than you. You know why? Because that $100,000 is now equal to your 13 million. I don't know whether we're on the same page. So let me go back again.
Exchange rate. I get it.
Yeah, let me go back again. So
because exchange rate right now is at 130.
So you took 100K and changed it to Kenya shillings to buy an apartment for 10 million.
Yes.
So each year you're earning 1 million from that apartment. So after 3 years, you've earned 3 million.
Yes.
So you have the 10 million, the value of the apartment, and 3 million that you've earned. That's a total of 13.
Yes.
Now a guy who was seated in America with that $100,000 in a checking account, no interest, no nothing.
Yes.
The guy now, when he converts that 100,000, it's the same amount as your. And you
as my investment that I've gone and hired a caretaker. I went and I bought what is it called?
You are evicting tenants.
Zile nini za maji nikaweka huko juu na mapumps zimewekwa hapo. Sijui kuna solar nimeweka hapo because I'm a generous guy. Ati sijui matenanties, ati sijui nimewawekea kamaji. No, I'm just saying. No, I'm just now giving an example because some people actually do that. Okay, Mika, do you know that us as who lived here in the diaspora, we are way landlords. Si kwa ubaya. Because tuko na kale ka, I don't know what you want to call it. Because I have seen some I've seen some cutthroat things being done. I'm like, I even tell my chap, no, don't do this, no. Ujama ni sawa.
But not to lose the point is that a lot of people who are calculating their returns, they refuse to look at the fact that they earn their money in dollars.
Yes.
And they're looking at their returns in Kenya shillings and you're losing. Have you ever asked yourself a simple question? How come banks in Kenya that offer dollar accounts, the interest rate they're offering on the Kenya shilling account is always very different from what they will offer you on a dollar account? Have you ever paused to ask yourself the question why? So what's 12% in Kenya, when you calculate it in dollars, is about 7%. So what you're calling a 12% return is actually a 7% return. And here's another reason why I tell people the first extra dollars that you have after you've paid all your bills, you've paid your rent, you paid your mortgage, the first dollars that you have, if you have not maximized your 401k. By maximize, I don't mean maximizing the match. I mean maximizing the limit that the federal government gives you. I think we're at 24,500. I'm not sure because it slightly changes every year.
Yeah.
So if you haven't maximized that, then you have no business
sending money elsewhere.
And here's why.
Hata aheri uweke chini ya godoro.
No, you know, like what I'm saying is that if you've not maximized, if that's the extra money, and this is every year. So every year the government allows, actually it's not only 24.5, it's 24.5 is for the 401k, then there's I think 6.5 or 7.5 for what's called an IRA. So you have up to $30,000. Now why is this $30,000 important? It is important because besides the return that you get from the whatever fund you have, there is some money that the government gives you as a tax break for doing that. And guess how much it is? For every $30,000 you invest, guess how much the government is gonna give you as a tax break? Just make a wild guess. I want people to type down there and make a wild guess.
That 13,500, I think, or something.
It's a variable amount, but
depending on if you're married or single.
No, it depends. It depends on your tax bracket.
Oh,
it depends on what tax bracket you're in. Now, if you're married, you have an advantage because now your tax brackets go higher. So there's the tax brackets. They start from, the 10% to 20. I think 22%, to 25%. 25 is where most people are. So that 25%, so that $30,000 that you're putting in your retirement, on your tax return, the government will tell you, oh, thank you very much for putting this money in the retirement, so we won't tax this amount in the income that you made. So out of that $30,000, calculate 25% of it or 20% of it, depending on what bracket you're in. The government is giving you back a check. Or if it's not a check, they're reducing your tax liability.
Your taxable income.
Yes. They're reducing your tax, not your taxable income. They're reducing your taxable income. And when you reduce your taxable income,
then you pay
you're reducing the taxes that you're paying.
Which may make you even fall into a different bracket.
Yes, so now you fall into a lower bracket. Now you fall into a lower bracket. So for your 30,000, if you're in the 25% bracket, they're now giving you back, because that $30,000, you didn't put it in your pocket, you put it in a retirement account. They're giving you 25% of $30,000. And 25% of $30,000, we are talking, watu wa math hapa. Is it 8?
About 8K.
Is it 8K? Yeah, it's about $8,000.
What's that point?
Is that 25%, 0.25 times 30K. So I think it's 8K. Yeah. So that right there, 7.5, and then factor in, there is, let's even be on the lower side, there is a 10% return that year. So you have 7.5K that the government has cut a check to you, and you have the 3K return. So you are 10K. You're already at a 33% return in dollars. You tell me what Furoti Maguta will give you that.
Now, this is again your regular 401k.
This is your regular 401k.
It's not at CG umeenda CG wapi.
No. This is your regular 401k. You just call HR department. You tell them, I want to increase my 401k. I want it to maximize.
So 401k si mambo ya immigration. Hii ni stock. Ni retirement.
This is a retirement account.
Okay.
This is a retirement account.
Kuna watu wengine wakisikia hizo namba wanajua ni immigration.
The break, you get it instantly. The break, yes. You get it instantly.
And by the way, something you're not talking about is that whatever you put into your 401k is you're 100% what is it called, vested into it, right?
So the what companies call vesting is the company actually have not even included the match. So most companies will give you a match. So they'll tell you, out of the first 5% of your paycheck that you put to a 401k, we're giving you another 5%.
So basically you're putting in 10.
So now you're putting in 10.
Yes.
But you only put in 5, but you're getting another free 5. So kwa your return tulipata, so you got back a return of 7.5 from the government, 3 as a return.
Yes.
And because kuna hiyo 5% that the government is doubling, let's say if you earn 100k and 5% of 100k is 5k, the government is also giving you another 5k. So now out of that 10k you have, there's another 5k. So now you have 15k. Out of 30,000 that you've put in your 401k, you're getting back 15k.
A year.
You're now at a 50% return. So somebody please explain to me where you're going to get this return using Furoti Maguta or a
Maguta
or even Airbnb. Someone please tell me. And this is where we need to save our people. And I can understand. And here's the thing. I personally, I am also, I'm not going to call myself a victim, but I've also bought land. I bought land back in 2013 in Malindi. And I've come back and done the calculation.
Why did you buy that land? Because I think there's a reason why you bought it.
So yes, so ancestral pressure kutoka kwa wazazi, you know, like my
And
grandmother
who are
was
you
also
next
there.
to? Who are you next to? That
My,
land?
my grandmother was also there.
Bas.
So
Okay.
so there's personal reason, but now I usually like using myself as an example. The piece of land I bought, I can't even remember the size, but I bought it for 400K back when, you know, like Kina OneMic's cousin had not invaded Malindi.
Those guys had not come.
No, they had not showed up.
Wale wase wa Mpeketoni hawako wameshow.
No. Wachana watu wa Mpeketoni. Watu wa Mpeketoni have always known about Malindi, but now me I'm talking about, you know, like watu wa huko, watu wa Mugoiri.
The ones who moved after Kenyatta.
No, the ones who are
not
seeing
before Kenyatta.
the ones who are seeing those, they had not shown up. So actually where I have land is a bit outside of Malindi. It's in Cheshale.
Iko ndani.
Yeah, it's a bit, it's a drive outside Malindi. It's Cheshale, ukienda towards Magarini, ukipita River Sabaki. So when I bought it, it was 400,000. So I did a calculation. Right now, I think it's valued at around maybe 1.4, 1.5. I did a calculation at that dollar rate. If I had put that money in an S&P 500 fund,
Yes.
at that time,
That was 2013.
Yes.
Now we're 11
now
years
we're in
later.
2024.
So
Yeah.
you would have doubled your money and you're about to
Not-
hit the next double.
Not only double, but there's a dollar appreciation I'm also eating.
Correct.
Remember, there's a dollar
Yeah,
appreciation.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I could go back with that money and buy that land at today's rate and still have change in my pocket.
Understood.
So my thing is, I am not against investing in Kenya. I highly encourage people. But I think as diasporans, we need to challenge ourselves and find out what are these opportunities that the Chinese are investing in, because the Chinese are getting good returns. What are these opportunities that white people are going to Kenya and getting in, because those guys are not getting 12%. I can guarantee you.
Gemstones, minerals.
Yes, they're not getting 12%. So we need to figure that out. I think one area, if you really love real estate, I think with Mika's example, a 30 million apartment in Uko, but nasikia Uko wazitu apartments into flats. Uko Babadogo, a 30 million flat in Babadogo. I think you're going to be better off if 6 of you put 5 million and go buy that flat than each of you try to go buy a random unit somewhere. I think when that money is put together, you're better off at getting a better return. But
are you saying you're not hedging all your bets on it? Is that what you're saying?
Not only not hedging your bets on it, but the more the units,
Got it.
the higher the return.
Got it.
When
Got it.
you're going for an individual unit, the return is usually very low. But when
Yes.
now you're investing in, Mika, correct me if I'm wrong. The more the units, the better the return you get per unit.
Yeah, the thing is in the numbers. The return is in the numbers, right?
Yeah, yes.
If you see, as Alia said, what the Chinese are doing and the Somalis, what are they doing? They are building apartment blocks in Kilimani that have 200 units in them. Mnakuja, mnauziwa, mnanunua, mna rent, mnafanya nini? Unajua Chinese hata kama if they have a 200 unit apartment and 75 of them are
Occupied.
occupied, haendi loss.
No, they surely are not.
Haendi loss. Haendi loss at all.
Ali, it is so
But
sad.
wewe na moja yako ni hiyo tu ndo iko. You don't have anything covering the other one.
Yeah.
It's just like here, when you have your house and then that house gains equity,
Yes.
and then uhame uende kwa nyumba ingine urenti hii nyumba yenye ulinunua kitambo ndio iko kwa resident mzuri. The people who pay their mortgage, their second mortgage with rent from the
From
first
the
house.
first house, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, na nalipa hiyo nini.
Juu hakuna expenses kule.
There's strength in numbers.
Now,
As simple as that.
Yeah, now there's a comment here, a couple of comments have been coming in. Slay says, how would you advise people wanting to retire back home? I think the drive to invest back home is mostly because people want to move back home. For retiring back home, that's very basic. Figure out when you want to retire. You know, like have a plan. You know, like if you wanna, are you trying to go back home in 20 years, in 5 years, to me, like if you've not gotten to that 5-year mark, just keep growing your wealth. Keep growing your wealth, because this wealth that you're growing will outperform any retirement home you try to build when you're 30 that you'll go live when you're 60. So you'd rather just build that money until when you know you're ready. Within the next 5 years, I want to move back to Kenya.
So,
then at that point, you can start now taking your millions that because this money is gonna get to millions. If you do that $30,000 a year, it is so amazing if you put that in what you call like a compound return calculator to see how quickly you'll get to 1 million, 5 million, or even 10 million. It is amazing. It is shocking. So that's why I'm saying, unless you're ready, unless you know that within the next 5 years I want to go. But if it's those dreams, the Zile stories are Narudi. No, just grow your wealth. Grow your wealth where you are in its most liquid form, where you know like you can pull it if you need it and you can keep it there and it's growing. And then another thing that people also don't bear in mind about rental units is that rental units give you simple interest, or rather simple returns, meaning ikiwa una for a 10 million investment, you're getting 1 million a year, it's still 1 million the next year. You see, ukipata hiyo 1 million, you cannot attach that 1 million to add a smaller apartment on your apartments, because that's what compounding does. So now when you're investing that 10 million in the S&P, if you get the 10%, that 10%, it doesn't go to your pocket. It's added. Now you have 11 million. So now the following year, your 10% is now 1.1 million. So your 10% keeps increasing every year. But with apartments, yes, of course, there's a price increase in the cost of rent every year, but it's very minimal compared to the compounding effect that compounding investment has. I know we have a caller. But before
let's
we get to the caller,
the comments.
Yeah, let me get to the comments. Almost you had something you wanted to say.
I was going to add on, what Slay had brought up about somebody who wants to retire home. Vile umesema, like you say, like, okay, what are your goals? When do you want to retire? And also part of that, building your wealth, like here stateside. Something that I learned years ago, which was very interesting in talking to people before I ever bought my first home. Something that I could see certain people who I worked with who were buying. And one thing that they were doing was like every year, every 2 years, they were buying a house. Buying. The goal was that I'll keep buying when I still have a job and I'm still able. Then now when I'm retired, every year I'll offload a house and I'll live off that house.
Okay. All right. That's an interesting strategy.
It sounds like it's crazy, but it's not that crazy. Because assuming you started purchasing homes when you are just about to hit 30, by the time you're hitting upper 50, you should have at least 20 hours. So if you decide you're going to retire at 50, you offload a house every year. You'll still be able to live off each house for the next 20 years, up to 70. And that's not touching anything like, your 401k, your blah, 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 and your da-da-da-da. But there's also those parents who decide at a certain point where they're going to wheel the homes over to their kids. Say, okay, you know what? I'm going to give this to my kids. I'll start a corporation, inatengeneza do, it's a this and that. It's become a whole real estate thing. Okay. So
Ali,
something to think about.
Let me try answer that question. I usually think this way. This is my thought process. I usually say, like the way Ali said, I'm sure you've maximized everything stateside, right? For 1K yako.
Yes.
Get everything, all your bases are here. Like you have everything here that you have. For me, I usually tell people, if you can do retirement 50-50, that's the best retirement you can do for yourself. Because 50-50 means that you get the benefits that you've earned over the years of working and living here, you get to enjoy them, and also get to enjoy the serenity and the peace of retiring back home. If you want now, look for something that gives you residual income back home, and that income that is coming from back home, you're not thinking about bringing it back to America. That income, let's say for example, you have your Airbnb or you have your apartment is giving you rent back home. That money that is giving you, let that money stay somewhere that is going to sustain your lifestyle ukirudi home. And then you have your 401k. And here in America, if you can get something, if you can buy a small business, you can do anything that gives you residual income, so that you can be so that you have both your stays are funding themselves, so that you can stay in Kenya for, let's say, 6 months, come back here for 6 months, get your medical checkups because you'll be old at that particular time. You need more specialized care. Look on your business around here, stay for a while. So let's say you become the true summer bunny. Summertime, you go America. America becomes cold. You go to Kenya for 6 months. You come to America for 6 months. That is, for me, how I see it's the easiest way for retirement.
Okay.
And I don't say that. Most people assume that I'm one of those people who believe in life. You don't have to be wealthy, like Bill Gates wealthy. You just have to make sure that when you're old, you're comfortable.
You're comfortable, yes, that's very important.
Na medical yako is on point.
So Adhis anasema Pastor Nganga Hoya, I feel his pain cause hata mimi nimekatazwa fried food, especially chicken, fish and fries. And then June says women are building their retirement homes and some for Airbnbs for summer bunnies. June anasema umetupoteza. Tell me, please ask questions. Like anywhere where I'd lost you. And then whoever is on the phone, we're picking up your call shortly. Stay patient. Slay anasema mbona Ali hapeanangi hii advice mbele umati. My problems with umati over the years is that
what does she mean by umati? Because we've had these conversations. Maybe up on your pali. Anyway, endelea.
No. I think
Umali she means in public,
public, yeah. No,
but Ali does this all the time. He even had a series.
No, but
watch a story flow.
I've contemplated, like even starting, like maybe a separate podcast or platform just to address this specific issue, because
a masterclass.
Yeah, because this thing is I think it's really hurting the community in so many different ways. The issues I have with umati, unaona kama like the post that I made yesterday, I have this analogy of a fire, and that analogy is what I use nowadays for everything. Now, like whenever there's a fire, there might be someone who's burning in the fire. There might be someone who's not burning in the fire, but is on the side of the fire so they can feel the heat of the fire. So there might be someone who's at a distance, they're seeing the fire, but they cannot feel the heat of the fire. And then there's someone who's somewhere, they're just seeing smoke. So based on that smoke, they're assuming that there's a fire there. Then there's someone at a very far distance who's being told that they smoke. So they've not seen the smoke, but they've told they've been smoke and there's a fire. So the person who's burning in the fire is the one who has the most intimate knowledge of that fire. Right. It is this hot. Someone who's next to the fire, he has some knowledge, not intimate as the one who's being burned. So now, on the issue of finance, unakuta mtu, wewe, you're someone who's very distant from financial knowledge. You're one of those people, you're not even seeing the people who are seeing the smoke. But then, you're coming very authoritatively, saying, oh, this is my preference. So I ask you a simple question, based on what? Is it based on a rate of return? Is it based on this? So that's why and that's a problem with finance, where a lot of people, and 90% of the population doesn't have, and that's something that I used to assume, but quite a big part of the population doesn't have proper knowledge of finances, but everyone seems to have an opinion. Imagine if everyone in a hospital had an opinion to give to the doctor about how they should be treated. That's what finance is. That's how, as a community, we are handling our finance. Everybody wants to come with their opinion, and no one wants to seek, expert guidance. Let's go to the caller.
Thank you for calling the OneMicShow. 2059. Name and where you're calling from.
Welcome to the OneMicShow.
What's the last 4 digits?
2059.
2059. Are you still there?
2059. Are you there?
Are they off?
Yeah, man, I'm here.
Ako shy.
Okay, let us know your name and
he's
tell us
shy.
where you're calling from.
Afro Jamaica in Toronto, Canada.
All right, Afro-Jamaican, talk to us.
Yo, you guys sure I'm not banned because I'm making comments and nobody's seeing them, eh?
Where the
Maybe we've not reached
My
them.
YouTube.
Maybe
On-
we've
on-
not.
on
No.
YouTube?
This guy is shadow banned. I can't see him.
Oh,
There's
no.
way.
On YouTube. If it's on
he's
YouTube,
not on
it's-
YouTube. He's
yeah.
not on YouTube. Unless he's using a different name. Yeah, he's not on YouTube.
No, I'm on YouTube and I'm commenting
As who?
as Afro Jamaica.
No, there's no you
You are shadow banned,
you are
my
being
friend.
you are being banned. And I
Yes,
think
I-
yes, that name of yours has got an yeah. Anyway, no, we don't see
it's too radical.
Yeah, anyways, another thing. Listen, Ali, I agree with some points and not with some.
Okay.
I'm in the stock market as well, and yes, and I only started. I'm brand new. I started during the pandemic, and between then and now, I have made some significant gains. Like I stopped depositing money about 2021. I started in 2020, stopped deposited in 2021, and it's grown exponentially just from dividends and reinvesting every month. What do you call a drip?
Yes.
But I have no issues with land. I think if I own it, it's not a mortgage. You can't come and take me off of it. It's mine. I can keep it for 10 years if I want, or I can put a house on it, and I can maybe not Airbnb because I'm not too big on that. But there are other uses for land. And you said something else about saving in dollars and so on. Listen, I don't subscribe to that. I have bank accounts in about 4 different countries, and I'm trying to get another one right now. And I'm going to tell you why I do that. Any day, my banking system here in Canada, and I've seen it happen to people here where the government freezes your account because you've said something that offends them.
Interesting.
Can you imagine if we had something called a Freedom Convoy, and if you donated to them, the government of Canada froze your bank accounts? Can you imagine if I had bills to pay and the only place I had money was in Canada? So if you can save back home, don't be worried about the exchange rate because you're earning US dollars. This is your emergency fund. If something happens, you still have money somewhere else. The same reason I tell people, get a second passport, get a third passport, get a fourth passport if you can. Leave yourself options, diversify. So I'm not just going to sit and wait on the S&P 500 for 10 years, because guess what? Anything can happen. So me, I have a little bit here and there. Am I making as much as I should if I wasn't S&P 500? I would say maybe. And I'd be able to pull some numbers and say it might not be a financial gain coming back, but there are gains that I'm getting from it. You understand what I'm saying? So I agree with some things. I think people should invest in the stock market. I think you can do it from your phone, man. Fairly, watch a couple of videos on YouTube, read some books, find out what companies you want to invest in, look at the rate of return. I personally don't invest in anything that doesn't pay a dividend. I'm not doing it. Never have, never will. But, I think land is a good thing. I think having bank accounts in other countries is a good thing. I think having multiple passports is a good thing.
And Afro-Jamaican, I totally agree with you.
I actually agree with him, and
Yeah.
I was going to add to that, but anyway,
I totally agree with you. What we're saying is, in the American context, because here we're talking about the fast dollars you have for investing. I mean, Afro-Jamaican, we know you have a lot of play money. But now here we're talking about people who have, these are your first dollars that you're investing. And like I said, like in America, there's free money that the government gives you every year. I mean, this is not a return. This is regardless of how the market performs. This is just based on you put this money towards your 401k, we're giving you back money in taxes. So once you have
Is it taxable
maximized,
when you retire?
no, you actually get it instantly. And I think this is where
Well, you guys have a better deal than Canada then, for sure, because ours is taxable on retirement.
So here's the deal, and I haven't looked at the Canada version, but I'll also look at it. But here's where the confusion comes, because people always talk about, people say, they will tax you, like when you retire, they'll take a big chunk of it. But this is what happens when you contribute right now. So let's say like you earn $100,000 a year. and you decided to contribute $30,000 towards retirement. So let's say the effective rate of that $100,000, for simplicity of calculation, let's say it was 25%, which means the government would have taken $25,000 out of your paycheck, or out of, or like, even if not out of your paycheck, you'd have to pay $25,000 in taxes. But now,
I understand.
Instead of, you decided to contribute 70,000. So now, I mean, you contributed 30,000. So now you have $70,000 that's taxable. So now the tax that the government is taking is 25% of 70,000. And when you calculate 25% of 70,000, that comes to 14 plus 3.5. It comes to around 17.5. So minus the 25,000 you would have paid from 17.5, and you have an extra $7,500 in your pocket instantly. That is instant. That's instant returns, meaning that 7.5 you can take it and put it straight back in the market. Like, you earn it right there. Yes, of course, that money that you're putting towards retirement, once you start withdrawing it, there is
tax ramification.
There's tax ramifications when you start withdrawing it.
If you take it early.
No, not even when you
Right?
take it early. When you take it early, there's tax and there's penalties.
Yes.
When you take it after 59 and a half, there's some tax ramifications, but there's legal ways of getting around that, which is where I tell people.
That's what I was asking you.
Yeah, which is where
Is it taxable on retirement?
it's so whatever is taxable on retirement is not the taxes that the government gave you. So here you have a choice. Do you want to pay $25,000 in taxes, or do you want to pay $17,500 in taxes? So the government is asking you that question. So if you choose $25,000, there's $7,500 that you're giving up every year just by not doing that. So this is where I think Afro-Jamaican, what we need to do is sit down with you. Maybe I need to look at the Canadian
one.
because I know the Canadian one is different from the US one. But with the US one, there are these kids who figured this out. There's a guy called the Mad Scientist with an F for Frank. He's called the Mad Scientist. He's shown a formula of how you can start working at age 20 on a modest salary. Let's call it 60 or 70,000, and have your modest increases and have enough money to retire by age 35 using your retire. Yes. Yeah. And this is hidden in plain sight. Like, this is not secret. This is hidden in plain sight for people to see. Go to his website, just search the Mad Scientist, and he will show you, like, how he has a formula, like, of how much you need to invest every year. Yes, you have to start saving heavily, very early. And then he also has a way in which you can access, a legal way in which you can access your 401k before the age of 59 and a half without the penalties. There's a way of doing that. And this is where I tell people, let's be comfortable enough to say, I am that person who's not in the fire. I'm not burning. I'm very far away. But I know someone who's close to the fire. Let me talk to them. Let's not be that person who's going to hospital and telling the doctor, okay, this is what you've recommended, but in my opinion, this is what I prefer. That is unfortunately why the Kenyan community is in the position it is right now, because everyone wants to have a position and everyone wants to have an opinion based on what their cousin told them, based on what their ex-boyfriend told them, based on what they saw someone doing, or based on what they saw a group of people doing. Let us release ourselves.